Look out! Here come former SportsCenter anchor Bob Stevens, esteemed basketball coach Rich Basirico, and Hall of Fame sports writer Curry Kirkpatrick. And someone's going under the bus.
Welcome in. We throw Rich under the bus immediately for as a no-show tonight, and welcome in to drive the bus Justin Jarrett, our usually esteemed producer, who gets to join us on camera and let us give us his 2 cents, which has now cost us a nickel, but we're getting there. That's
inflation.
okay.
Yeah, I mean, with the tariffs and everything. But we have Worldwide Wes has been taking the controls more and more, and which is wonderful. He's far more attentive and capable than I am at this stage in the game.
Is Worldwide Wes, is that going to be the podcast version of World Be Free?
I think he's. I envision perhaps one day he gets to score this whole fight, like our friends at Around the Horn did for years. And then maybe he gets to pop in and be stat boy, and correct us on all our mistakes. And I think he's perfect for the role.
All right. Hey, we begin in a sports world where the hockey champions are in South Florida and the basketball champions of the NBA are in Oklahoma City. Curry, could you ever imagine that happening?
Not really. I even forgot where they came from. Did they used to be the Seattle team?
They were the Supersonics.
Yeah. I wish they were still in Seattle. Actually,
that was R.I.P. Supersonics. I loved that run through the '90s with Peyton and Kemp and Xavier McDaniel, and man, that was a fun group. That left Shrimp had a turn in there. Yeah, I love that team.
Yeah, Curry and I go back though to the days, the real Supersonics, when Lenny Wilkins was a player coach, when they had Spencer Haywood, who Curry never got to cover in college because he's the one guy. He was the original right out of high school, right, Curry?
Right. Yeah.
Never went to college.
He opened it up
those
for
kind
everybody.
Of guys.
He opened the whole thing up for everybody, Spencer Haywood. But
Oklahoma City. I got a quick story to tell. Nobody to throw under the bus on this because I'm glad they won. They had a great season. I mean, Oklahoma City, again, there's a Facebook video going around of a helicopter pilot from one of the TV stations flying maybe a couple of thousand feet up and showing all of the fireworks going on. Oklahoma City is a large area city. It, I think, is the second largest in the country. And it just for miles and miles and miles, fireworks going off on the 22nd of June. Not even waiting for the 4th of July. That area
probably a
has
few shotgun blasts involved too.
I would imagine there are probably a few of those. They are saying in Oklahoma that last night was the biggest sporting event since the land run in 1907. And,
oh Lord!
Which was boy, they're good. And they're going to be really good. They should be for a long, long time. They don't have any old guy. They're the second youngest team in the league. They have 2 number 1 picks this week. They have 2 number 1 picks next year. They have 2 number 1 picks the year after that.
I think
what are you going to do? How do you stop this?
Yeah, I think we can call him a worthy champion, even though, of course, Game 7 was kind of just stopped in its tracks with with Halliburton's injury. After that, I didn't lose interest in the game, but you kind of knew inevitably, even though Indiana gave it a great shot for a half, you knew inevitably they just weren't going to win that game. And it was a shame. Halliburton keeps falling down. I don't know. I go back to the amazing Game 1 where he wins the game on that spectacular shot finish to Game 7 where he's sprawling on his stomach, pounding the floor. What a series of events that the thing went like that. It was very, very sad to see. I have one problem with Oklahoma City. I'll tell you this, in Game 6, I mean, I know they're a worthy champion, but I'm going to question their effort. And, this has been going on all season with NBA teams. I mean, they're down by they just get run out of the building with a chance to, end it in game 6, and they're down by 30 after 3 quarters. What? I mean, I don't get it. I just don't get it.
Yeah, I was curious. I mean, I wonder if there's a tendency to think, well, we got a better shot to win it at home in the next game, so we keep some in the tank. Let's shut it down now, conserve something in the tank, let them go ahead and use it all up, and then we go home and we're feeling fresh and we run them out of our gym. But it's a dangerous game to play, right? Because if it had been SGA whose Achilles popped instead of Halliburton's, we're talking about a different story. So you can overthink that stuff, but there does seem to be some gamesmanship in the NBA more than other leagues when it comes to that kind of stuff.
Meanwhile, how good do you think these teams are? How good do you think Oklahoma City? I mean, people are talking about, they won 84, 85 games combining the playoffs.
Right.
I think only 2 teams won more than them in history. But I don't see them, I don't know. I think Gilgeous-Alexander is terrific, worthy MVP. The center that's come back from injury is a great story too. But I also read a piece in The Athletic just before Game 7 that was questioning the Indiana team, the Pacers, and talking about if the Pacers won the championship, they'd be the worst team in history to win the NBA championship. And only second behind only the 78 Bullets. And that the Pacers were only the 22nd best team in the history of the franchise. I mean, so these 2 teams are playing. I'm wondering, what are we seeing here?
Yeah,
and
that's
Indiana
curious.
Obviously played better in the playoffs than they played during the regular season. I mean, they found another level. But yeah, I think there have been Indiana teams that were better. I mean, the Reggie Miller, Detlef Schrempf, Rick Smits, those Pacer teams
was in
awfully
there for
good.
a while.
And you'd mentioned the Bullets that won. By the way, they beat the Seattle Supersonics in the finals.
I covered that series, game 1 to game 7. I remember traveling all over for that series. But do you think, as far as Oklahoma City goes, go back in their history, would you? They had who did they have?
Durant, Harden, and Westbrook.
Durant, Harden, and Westbrook in their infancy.
In their prime,
and all 3 were going to be future MVPs. Now, how good
they
was
made
that?
It to the finals. They did make it to the finals once in Miami.
Lost to LeBron, right?
Lost to LeBron in Miami.
Yeah.
But I mean, how amazing are they to have overcome losing those 3 guys? Right. I think all of them are free agents. Did they trade any of them?
And then
did they get anything for any of them? Maybe Harden. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they traded Harden.
Well, they got Alexander in that trade. They got Harden.
I think they traded Westbrook as well, actually.
Was it Westbrook or Harden? And they got Gilgeous-Alexander back.
In one of those trades.
Yeah. And he was
I think that's where they got a bunch of those ones that they're about to cash in.
Well, I mean, they've
they're about to cash in some stuff they've been sitting on, some assets they've been sitting on for a while, and it's going to get interesting. But I mean, they are like a team. The whole is greater than the sum of its parts. It feels like Dort, for example, which you guys are maybe the only audience that I hold court with that will appreciate this. But every time they say his name, I see Tim Conway in my mind. Every time they say Dort, I picture Dorf, and it just makes me laugh thinking about Dorf blocking shots and grabbing rebounds and banging threes. But Dort's terrific. He's, I heard Shane Battier compare him to himself the other day as the no stats all-star. The guy who thinks the game and does the dirty work. And every great team has to have that guy who really doesn't care what his line looks like at the end. He just wants to get the win.
And he wasn't even.
Jalen Williams was phenomenal.
He wasn't even drafted, was he? Dort wasn't even drafted.
I don't think so.
I don't
And
think
then
so.
Jalen Williams, where did this guy come from?
Well,
My goodness.
yeah. Where'd he place? Where'd he place? Not San Diego State. I'm thinking.
I don't even know. I
Where'd he,
can't keep up anymore, man. It's too much going on for me.
but the plays on his name have been outrageous. My favorite came up sort of at the end of the series, and when you're guarded by him, you go in the torture chamber. It was a good one.
Well, I have I have to throw the collective Achilles heels of Achilles tendons of the NBA under the bus while we're on the subject, because this is an epidemic. And my son pointed out to me tonight, which, he gets all his news from Instagram and TikTok and wherever, scrolling through the videos. But every once in a while, he stops me in my tracks with one that he sees. The three guys who recently tore their Achilles: Dame Lillard from Milwaukee, Jason Tatum, and Tyrese Halliburton, all wearing the number 0.
Oh my goodness, really? Oh
I
my!
gotta throw the number 0 under
Your
the
son
bus.
came up with that? Your son
He
came up
saw
with
it
that?
he saw it on the internet. He didn't come
Whoa,
up
that's
with
a good one.
He uncovered it. I mean,
there are 5 other players that had Achilles since the beginning, I don't know if it's the beginning of the season, but 8 players went down with career-threatening injuries that kept them out for a year. So it is a, if that's kind of becomes a trend now. So I don't know.
It runs in cycles, though, because I remember that happening in the 90s during the Cavaliers' good run when they were always second to the Bulls. One of the years they lost a chance, but they lost Mark Price early in the year to an Achilles, who was out, then out for a year. And what do you do to replace him? You put some clown named Kerr in the, in the 2 spot, and you realize early on he's going to be a much better coach than he was a player. And
he could shoot the 3 though.
But there were a number of them then. Seemed like that Dominique went down about the same time, and a number of guys. So it kind of runs in cycles, and I mean that's one of those things. There's really nothing you can do, is there? I mean, there's nothing medically. There's no brace you can wear.
Well, the pacing of the game and the spacing of the game is so different now and so fast and quick and just
the change of direction is so much faster.
I'm surprised there aren't more of these things. It's just incredible how these guys can do this. By the way, I want to call out myself for missing Jalen Williams is from Santa Clara. He played at Santa Clara. Yeah.
Boy, he's phenomenal.
And
the Gauchos, I believe, correct?
No, that's Santa Barbara.
Santa Barbara. Santa Clara.
Santa Barbara is the Bananas. No, that's Santa Cruz, the Bananas line.
Santa Clara is where Steve Nash played.
Steve Nash, yeah.
Knocked off Arizona in the tournament as a 15-2 and kept me up really late one school night. One more note on the Achilles. I have a theory on what's going on here. For a while there, after the kids would hit a 3, they'd go Kobe and do a little homage. But now they all say Steph or Curry, right? So they had to find a new homage to Kobe. So now when they, if you listen really closely, when Tyrese Halliburton's Achilles goes, he goes Kobe. So that's the new tribute to Kobe.
That's terrible. Wow.
That was awful. Throw me under the bus for that one.
You're it. You're under the bus. Let me tell my quick Oklahoma City story before it doesn't matter anymore. Real quick, how Oklahoma City got the team, is such a great story. I mean, they had a mayor, and the mayor, Mick Cornett at the time, the mayor wanted pro basketball, wanted a pro sport for Oklahoma City because he was a sportscaster. He was the number 3 guy at the ABC station in Oklahoma City. I knew him really well when covering OU football, and when I was in Tulsa, and we had an opening for my number 2 in Tulsa, and I didn't hire him. If I'd have hired him, none of this would have happened, because he stayed in Oklahoma City. He ended up knowing everybody, ran for mayor or town council, and then ran for mayor and won. And so then he was campaigning the city around as a potential home. Remember, Hurricane Katrina hits, and the New Orleans Pelicans, Jazz, needed a place to play for a year. And Oklahoma City said, pick me. They took him in for a year. They were not very good, but they drew outrageously well, which got on David Stern's radar. Hey, this may be a market, because they were never going to give Oklahoma City an expansion team. But they got themselves kind of known. And the owner, Clay Bennett, who was an Oklahoman, I believe, then, saw the situation in Seattle where they were not going to get a publicly funded arena. And he said, hey, I'll buy them and move them to Oklahoma City. And the rest is history. A new mayor got to hold up the trophy, but he was a friend of Cornette's. And so anyway, a weekend sportscaster has become was the seed planted to make an NBA champion. Weird stuff.
Was he broadcasting while he was mayor? Was he still doing
No. He got out of that.
It was after Bob ended his broadcasting dream
I didn't really end his career. I just, he would have had to leave town. He'd have come to Tulsa, and he wouldn't have helped him. He would not have become mayor of Oklahoma City.
I just know that if we can get that clip at about 14:30 to go viral, we can make Bob a wanted man in Seattle forever, because he said the story of how they moved to Oklahoma City is a great story. So if we can just get that clip, you'll never throw fish in Pike Place again.
No, probably not. And a couple of years before I didn't hire him. Well, a couple of years after I didn't hire him, but before he became mayor, I interviewed for a job in Seattle. So it's a crazy
turn. It's a small world, my friend. It's a small world.
Even I have a history of Oklahoma City basketball. Before the Oklahoma City Thunder was there, I used to go there all the time and cover the Oklahoma City college team. Oklahoma and coached by the great comedian Abe Lemons. And I would love going there because he was the best. He was the absolute best. And
Curry, was he a pretty good basketball coach? I mean, I don't know. Was he any good?
I think so, because he was, his players loved him so much and he was a hard guy. He was a hard guy on his players. He was in the NIT one year, and the team played so bad during the first half. He had them scrimmage at halftime out on the floor in front of all the New York fans. He scrimmaged at halftime. And I remember one year I went on. He had a little guard named Gary Gray, who was an Indian, and he had a bunch of Indians through the years. Of course, Oklahoma City, and at one point he said, I can't even communicate with these. I've recruited so many Indians. I have to communicate with them through my cigarette smoking. I blow smoke signals through my cigarettes.
Oh no! Oh no! Oh no, Abe!
I could not use that line now. We could not use.
We're all going under the bus for that one. Yeah.
Oh, Abe!
He was a classic, though. Hey, we got one other NBA story.
The more they stay the same, right?
Yeah, we got a couple of other NBA stories we need to get into, and we probably ought to take a break first. Let's do that, and then come back and talk about, really probably to the most of the rest of the country, the much bigger NBA story involves the Lakers. And we also got to talk about the draft. That's all coming up when we come back and throw some more folks under the bus. It's all brought to you by Hudson's on the Docks, a great seafood restaurant on Hilton Head Island, South Carolina. Hudson'sOnTheDocks.com. Welcome back to Under the Bus. Bob Stevens along with Curry Kirkpatrick and our special guest star, usual producer, but guest star tonight, Justin Jarrett. Lakers, $10 billion being bought apparently by the owner of the Dodgers. $10 billion. That's the Celtics got sold this last year for 6.1.
6, yeah.
The Lakers are almost worth double the Celtics. Wow.
And Magic Johnson went crazy about that. He started talking that up, how the Celtics were worth only 6 and the Lakers were worth 10.
So there'd be some bird
Well,
magic stuff going on. Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Well, out on the West Coast, they kind of inflate their numbers out there. So,
Are the Lakers close enough that $10 billion makes any difference?
I mean, it costs about $1 billion to get a house out in California now, doesn't it?
But I mean, getting players and coaches and whatever. Hey, is Rich interviewing for the coach's job with the Knicks, by the way?
There's a chance. I think one of the qualifications, though, is that you have to already be employed as the head coach of another NBA franchise.
Somebody else?
I'm not sure he's going to get a fair shake.
Curry, how do you do a draft? And that's coming up this week. How do you do an NBA draft when you don't have a coach?
Yeah, their plan, whatever their plan was, didn't really work out, did it? If they had any, it doesn't look to me like they had any plan. I don't even know where their draft choice is. Is it top 10? Is it pretty high? Their first rounder?
I would think not, because they had a pretty good season. They should be drafting down kind of in the
seed, right?
Second or third tier. But what?
Yeah, the two Rutgers, the two local players in New York, the Rutgers players are going to go, 2 and.
Is there anybody besides Cooper Flagg that's a difference maker out of this draft? Is there any other superstar?
Well, there's already some controversy. The guy to watch is Ace Bailey, the Rutgers center, who's already turned down he turned down an interview with the 76ers, right? He said, I don't want to play with them. So he didn't even have an interview, and he's not talked to any other teams. He just wants his ability to stay up there. But boy, that's a question mark right away. I don't know if
I can imagine how does a GM hire draft a player before you hire draft the number one pick or a number one pick before you hire the coach. That's wacky stuff. So we'll see.
I don't know.
We'll see what happens there.
Well,
maybe the Knicks don't even have a number one
first rounder. They don't.
GMs are running the league now, though. That's what they say. Right. The guy at Oklahoma City, he got Jalen Williams and he got Gilgeous-Alexander that was with another coach. The guy wasn't even there, and the coach even has admitted that those draft choices were not his. He didn't know anything about Jalen Williams, for instance. So the GMs are. What's the guy name in Oklahoma City? I forget. He's
Sam Presti.
Presti.
Yeah. He's the genius of the league right now.
That situation feels a little bit like when Spoelstra first came in Miami, right? Like kind of walked into this great situation and got to learn on the job with a really good team that executes the game plan well and looked like a genius. Rich always reminds us that good players make good coaches. So, it can go the other way in a hurry.
Well, but
I think he did a great job of managing that group.
I think Pat Riley runs that whole organization, though. He's the final say in who they draft and who they trade for. And of course, his stock and trade has gone down the last few years. I don't know if it's hurt his reputation, but they're not even relevant anymore. And it's due a lot to the players that Riley has chosen.
Has the game passed him by? That would be a better question for Rich, certainly, than either of us.
Let's throw him under the bus anyway. Pat Riley
represents a bygone era, certainly.
I can't imagine Pat Riley.
Well, think about it. Who else from his era is still really kicking around in the league, making an impact? There's not very many people from that time. And the game has really changed in that time.
Well, and now Popovich is gone, so you can't really consider him there anymore.
And the last
Presti is a Popovich guy. That's where he learned it. So
you're kind of right, Justin. The guys of Riley's age are gone.
Jackson's long gone. Those guys have been out of the game for a while now.
Yep.
Hey, Wes reminds us that we have not mentioned one other thing in the NBA. Kevin Durant. We did mention him as part of the Oklahoma City thing. He gets traded on the night before they win the title. He does have a ring. He got one at Golden State, but he keeps getting traded around from people who think they want rings and think he's going to take them there, and now he goes to Houston for a bunch of players and a bunch of picks. And
doesn't he keep demanding to be traded around?
I thought that was kind of tacky, them announcing that on the day of the NBA finals. I mean, what are you doing? I mean, come on. It's like a digger.
I thought the same. I thought that was kind of a cheap shot, a little bit. And Durant seems a little bit like
the Rockets and the Suns under the bus.
Well, I think I want to throw Durant under the bus the most of all, because he's just kind of been a disappointment since his
Golden State.
What I feel like peak. He's just such a chaser. He's just always chasing a ring in a way that's unbecoming to me. Trying to get the gang together, and it's like it keeps not working.
Or trying to become one of the gang.
Well, I think his individual pursuits were out in the open. When he leaves, I mean, how do you leave Steph Curry, a team with Steph Curry? How do you leave him to go to Brooklyn with unknowns like, Kyrie Irving to go play with? You can't do that. I mean, you're right.
Flat earthers.
If he had stayed at Golden State, we might be looking at 4 or 5 or 6 championships there.
For real.
So
that's what I'm saying.
But he wanted to be the number one guy, so he left.
Yep. Well, and now Devin Booker wants out of Phoenix, right? Isn't that what I saw?
I think everybody wants out of Phoenix now.
So Phoenix is desolate. Nobody's left.
He's run by the former Ishby, a former Michigan State player who's a reserve on that Michigan State team that won Izzo's only national championship.
Really?
And that's the guy that he became a multi-billionaire, and that's the guy that's running the Phoenix Suns now. And he's had what? He runs a coach up every year. He's had like 3 coaches, that have won rings. He brings them in.
Well, I mean, being a billionaire
brings them in, pays them big, and lets them go.
Necessarily lend itself to knowing about basketball.
Well, that's true. That's shown.
Are we just jealous that none of us got a gig you could go in, screw up for a year, and get paid big money for 3 or 4 more after? That'd be nice to find.
Yeah,
well, you get to live in Phoenix too, so
you get to live in Phoenix.
If you just convince your parents to buy a pro sports franchise, it seems like you get to get one of those gigs.
I'm still pissed off that my parents never bought me one. That's for sure.
I know.
Hey, we got baseball to talk about, and we got other people to throw under the bus. Let's take a quick break here too, then, and come back. And we'll talk a little baseball. It's baseball season now. Hockey's over. Basketball's over. Hooray. Let's talk some baseball. When we come back, Under the Bus, brought to you by Hudson's on the Docks. Welcome back to Under the Bus. Bob Stevens along with Curry Kirkpatrick and Justin Jarrett. We've got Ohtani's pitching now and seems to be pitching pretty well. The inning or 2 that they're giving him, working back into it. I read somewhere today where people are Dodger fans are finally saying it's great that Ohtani's pitching because now we can shut down all the Yankee talk that Judge is actually better than Ohtani now because Ohtani pitches. That argument has ended. He's still hitting. Of course, the big hitting story is our friend, the Big Dumper.
The Big Dumper.
Cal Raleigh up in Seattle, catcher.
A catcher.
A catcher, and who has hit more home runs than Johnny Bench before the All-Star break. Hello. I mean, he's already hit 30.
He's on pace for over 60, right?
Yeah.
And nobody knew who he was before this season. Nobody knew who he was, right?
Oh, I mean, people who follow baseball certainly knew who he was. He's been one of the better hitting catchers in the league and a decent defensive catcher as well for a few years now. But playing on the West Coast doesn't help.
Did he make
You
the
play all your
All-Star team?
games late
Did he
at
make the
night.
All-Star team last year? Because I don't
If he
remember.
didn't, it was because the All-Star voting has become a sham. But
Yeah.
he's an All-Star caliber catcher, and he's having a phenomenal year right now. He had banged up my Cubs this weekend, which your Cardinals are banging them up tonight. So
Oh, that's great to know. That's
rough
great to
stretch.
hear.
Yeah,
Cardinals,
8-2.
Cardinals are only 3.5
8-2.
back. I know that.
Yeah, they're
Listen,
closing the gap.
big jumpers.
That's the cool thing about this third wild card. I
Never
was
out of
okay.
it.
It took me a long time to get to where I accepted one, and now we're at 3. Is that everybody's in it? I mean, there are probably 3 teams that are not in the wild card chase. The Pirates, the White Sox, and Oakland maybe's not. But boy, everybody else, or Sacramento, I should say. But everybody else is in the wild card, and that keeps us all interested. That's for sure. If you can stay 500,
that's a good look. I'll tell you what's a bad look for baseball though. In the last week, the Dodgers and Padres, the best rivalry in baseball, had a series, and it was a plunkathon. I mean, everybody's hitting everybody else. And it started. I mean, they played 3 games. I think there were 8 hit batters, and Tatis from San Diego got hit 3 times. But it doesn't become funny when the careers are on the line here. They even hit Ohtani. The Dodgers hit Tatis like in the wrist, I think, on his last hit, and then in the next inning, Ohtani comes up, and everybody was, oh, they're not going to hit Ohtani, they're not going to hit him. And sure enough, they hit him in the back as he turned around and took it in the back, which is fine, But
that's where you're supposed to hit him.
Yeah, when these are career-ending stuff, possibly, and it doesn't become funny anymore. The managers didn't help any. They wanted, one game they were out. They wanted to go one-on-one. Looked like they wanted to go in a cage, and looked like we wanted to go in a cage and have it out.
Roberts always looks like he wants to fight.
Yeah,
and Schilt's a fussy dude too. But no, I'm going to sound like an old man here, but when the pitchers were pitchers, they could throw at a guy and not hurt any feelings. But now they don't know where it's going, and they get emotional and they throw it up under your hands, and that's not okay.
No, because the wrist,
that's your livelihood. You break a hamate bone and you're done for the year.
Yeah.
And those guys.
I mean, it's where you throw matters. You could still be throwing at guys.
They throw 107 miles an hour now.
They used to call these things bean balls, but they don't throw at the head anymore. At least I don't think.
Yeah.
So what's the new word we can call them if they're not bean balls? I don't know. What do you call it?
Well, it's always been brushbacks, and there's a story, of course, that's been circulating around since all of this started up again about who was Henry. Oh, Dusty Baker tells this story that when he first came up, Henry Aaron told him the first time he was going to face Gibson, he says, if you hit a home run off him, get around the bases, don't lollygag. Don't look at him. Don't show him up. Don't do anything, because he's going to get you the next time, and he's probably going to get you the next time because you just because you hit a home run. But watch out. This is going to happen, and
he's going to get you once regardless. He's going to get you forever if you look at him.
In fact, didn't Gibson once in an old timers game?
He threw it.
Pete Lecoq of the Cubs had hit a home run off him during Gibson's last year of playing. This is back in the 60s, maybe early, 70, 71, whenever Gibson was in his last years. And Pete Lecoq of the Cubs, Peter Marshall, the game show host's son, hits a home run off him. And they meet in an old timers game 30 years later, and Gibson sticks one in his ear, and Pete knew exactly why.
That's unreal.
But I think a manager once told me that the whole beanball thing, he says, let the game, because we all want to figure out how to police it and how to keep it from happening. He says the game will take care of it.
Yeah, the players take care of it.
They're going to keep throwing at each other. Well, okay, but generally,
Yeah.
I get yours, you get mine, and we're good. And
then somebody goes over as a bastion of goodwill to the other team the next day and says, "Hey, talk to your guy because that wasn't cool." And then it's all good. But on the subject of Pete Lecoq, there's another baseball player who made news.
I don't have it on my list, on my rundown. Go ahead.
I have it right here. Richard Lovelady of the Blue Jays has requested to be known as Dickie Lovelady. And
is that a true story? Is it true?
That is a true story, apparently. I don't know, because you can't trust anything on the internet anymore. But it was posted in a baseball group where news items are shared, not jokes. So I think it's true that young Richard has requested to be known as Dickie Lovelady.
Well, Justin,
I don't know who to throw under the bus.
Let's go to the College World Series from that.
Yeah, moving down, like I want to talk to you guys about the umpires in the College World Series. What did you think of that? What did you think of that first inning in the Chanticleers and Coastal Carolina?
I have to take a deep breath. I coach a lot of baseball and softball, and I really have a love-hate relationship with umpires because we can't do what we do without them. But gosh dang, you can't throw that man out of the game in the first inning for that. There's got to be able to be a little bit of dialogue early in the game about where the zone is, and if it looks funky, we got to know where's the top, where is it. We need to know, and if you can't have that conversation without if it was bothering him that much, he needed to walk over to the dugout and talk to him and say, "Okay, I'm gonna hear you out, but that's it. We're not going to talk about it anymore."
Didn't the umpire throw his third base coach out first? That was
the first base coach.
First base coach. He started.
And I will say, he's got to shut up, because everybody who's ever been inside the lines in a baseball game knows that the gentlemen who walk up to home plate and address each other by the first names, they get to talk to each other during the game, and the rest of us need to pipe down. And so he messed up.
How about the umpire?
Schnall didn't need to go.
How about the umpire that fell backwards on his butt
and he acted like he got pushed down?
He tripped himself and acted like he was pushed, and somebody is getting thrown out right there. I don't know who. That umpire is going to throw out somebody just for embarrassment's sakes.
Oh, he jumped up and said 2 games.
Yeah.
And but he tripped over his partner. His partner moved in to try to get into it, and he stepped back and he did the old knee behind his knee trick and tripped him backwards.
And then he blamed the player, right?
Yeah.
The umpire blamed the player?
Blamed the coach,
The coach.
Yeah. That was nonsense. It really marred for me what was an amazing tournament. The tournament was just phenomenal. There were so many great games. Coastal was such a great story, and obviously they're home state team for us. We had a hometown boy on the mound last night, Darren Horn from May River High School. Got in relief, had not pitched in the postseason, and was coming back from an injury this year, so he didn't get a ton of innings and looked really good in 2 innings of relief, kept him in the game. And,
is he undergrad? Is he undergraduate to be back next year? Yeah.
He may have 2 years of eligibility left. I'm not certain, but he's electric. He pitched in the Cape Cod League a couple of years and was lighting up the spin rate charts, which of course is everything now. So we're hoping maybe he'll be a big leaguer from Bluffton.
Well, the LSU pitching was phenomenal. I mean, the two.
Anderson.
Anderson was terrific. He got the MVP. And what's it? LSU's 4th? Is that their 4th in the century or something like that? The 4th championship.
I think it's their 8th overall. I think, but that takes over some more time.
Yeah.
But they're obviously one of the powers. SEC wins again.
My favorite player to watch for LSU was Stephen Milam, the 5'8" shortstop.
Oh, the little
from the left side. Just incredible little player. I can't wait to see what comes of him. I hope he progresses through the system somewhere and makes it to the bigs, because I want to see that kid play more baseball.
Yeah.
All right. Final thoughts. How about a final under the bus from everybody?
Well, we haven't touched yet in golf.
We
I thought
haven't-
golf.
yeah,
golf was
the
gonna
golf.
be
Oh, that's right. Well,
subject this
let's.
week because
I can throw somebody under the bus from golf.
I'm
well,
sad to report.
I've got probably the same guy, Bob. But go ahead.
A show favorite is going to have to go under the bus tonight.
Yeah,
I'm afraid.
Yeah,
exactly,
I hate to
exactly.
throw Tommy Fleetwood under the bus, but he let that one
Fairway,
get away.
Jesus. Yeah.
Fairway, it was so, he's so popular and he's so fun to watch. But on Sunday, I'm thinking we're watching the ultimate, a professional athlete just be crushed by the pressure. I mean, he comes out in the first, he bogeys three of the first holes or three of the four of the first holes to lose a 3-stroke lead because he's just nervous. He just can't play and then the last hole, the 72nd, was just so sad. I mean, you just knew he's going to bogey the hole and Keegan Bradley's going to birdie it. I mean, you just knew it. And
does Keegan pick himself for the Ryder Cup team?
He better.
Oh, wow. I mean,
I don't think you do that.
Well, they have to make it a great story. What a story that's going to be. I mean, they're going to get.
Curry and I are both writers. We say, yeah, you got it.
Oh yeah,
I think it's just as good a story if he doesn't.
I didn't realize they ever did it before, and it was Arnold Palmer who did it before.
There have been other guys who did it before. Yeah.
Do you remember that, Bob?
Davis,
do you remember when Arnie
Davis
did?
Love, was he a playing captain?
No. Arnie was the last one.
Arnie?
Yeah, and
Bob,
it was a long time ago.
Bob, do you remember that?
That was back. Yeah, that was back in the day. That would have been back in the late 50s, early 60s when Arnold was dominant, and the British were terrible. I mean, we were going to win the Ryder Cup by 100 points anyway,
which we did every year. Every time.
Back then we did.
Those
so
were
it didn't
the
matter.
days.
Arnold can be the playing captain, and it doesn't matter. I mean, this time obviously it matters, and it matters a whole lot. Again, Keegan has a chance as a coach, as a New Englander coach at Bethpage Black. He has a chance to go around on a cart for 3 days and rile up the crowd and do what he does, and not have, if he plays, he's got one match. He can play.
Well, but come on, Bob.
And he can only impact one match. We got enough good players. We got enough players that are better than Keegan Bradley or as good as Keegan Bradley. He needs to be the coach and the cheerleader.
What if the players say, "Hey, man, we want you. We want you to lead the way."
Yeah,
if the players do that,
the players could convince him. I think they might. Say what a great story this is. He went to St. John's, for God's sake. Yeah. St. John's University, the basketball school. This guy, I didn't even.
He looked like a.
I didn't know he
had a golf course. He was a ruthless killer. On Sunday.
And their golf course is 6th Avenue between.
Dogs,
and isn't it, Bob? You know this, isn't it true that he was left off the Ryder Cup team a few years ago? He wasn't chosen by somebody.
2 years ago, the last one. He thought he was going to get. Yeah, and in fact, he's part of that. The golf. What do they call the series that Netflix did?
Yeah.
On golf, does a whole episode on him not getting picked, on Justin Thomas getting picked, and him not getting picked. So.
That's right. They've got him on the phone call when he's not picked.
Yeah, that's right.
That's right. I want to throw up. I want to, before we go though, I want to quickly switch to the Saturday television, the third day, and I want to throw Jim Nantz under the bus again. I mean, I like Jim. I know him, but he's his is so calculated. Some of his stuff. He's been waiting 20 years to do a Fleetwood Mac about Tommy Fleetwood when Tommy Fleetwood gets on and do a Fleetwood
Mac. On the pun, baby.
Do a reference. And sure enough, he comes up the 18th on. He's shooting 63 on Saturday. That's when he came to the 4, Fleetwood, and he's shooting 63, and he's having this great back nine. Sure enough, he comes up on the 18th, and Nantz actually says his caddy is about a foot taller than Tommy. He's some English caddy. He's like a foot taller. He's really tall.
Yeah.
Which is true of Mick Fleetwood, also the drummer for Fleetwood Mac. And sure enough, Nantz said, "Well, look how tall his caddy is. That's what it would look like if Mick Fleetwood was out here with Tommy of course, if
Of
they
course
were
he was,
related, and I'm going, what, Jim? What? I mean, dude, what better? What are you talking about? If they're related, and then he does
Lord.
another one. He does another one a few minutes later. Fleetwood hits a great shot, and Nance says, "Not even Lindsey Buckingham could play any better than that."
No.
I swear to God, he said that. And I'm sitting here and I'm going, Jim Nance, come on now. You know, only avid fans of Fleetwood Mac even know who these people are.
The next time anybody talks to Mick Fleetwood, they ought to, to Tommy Fleetwood, they ought to ask him how many times, give us the list of lines guys have used to describe you as with Fleetwood Mac references.
There we go.
I'm
surprised Nance didn't go to, at the end and say, it looked like Fairway Jesus would get his first PGA Tour win till the landslide took him down.
Well, he was waiting for Fairway Jesus to win that thing. I know he was going to do. He was going to do something like.
He had the corniest lines.
He had about 10 song titles. He had about 10 song titles ready. Yeah, you're right.
Breaking the chains. He was definitely going to say that. Oh yeah.
When he went, oh my God, when he went to Lindsey Buckingham, I said, oh my, I was waiting for him to go to Stevie Nicks. How was he going to get Stevie in there?
Tommy Fleetwood, go your own way.
That's right. Go your own way. You've certainly done that. Hey, before we go then, I'm not going to be on the show next week. So I want to throw my 4th of July under the bus to the folks at Nathan's famous hot dog contest for not getting Joey Chestnut back sooner than they did. Joey missed last year. Remember the big contract dispute?
Yeah, of course.
Joey's back.
Joey's
back. Joey's going to be eating on July the 4th, and all will be well with the world.
Well, Bob, is that where you're going? Are you going to eat in the contest? Is that where you're leaving?
I got some Joey Chestnut related news actually. Real quick before we go. We were just down in Florida, down in Orlando, and we were staying at the JW Marriott, and there were some grackle, which is commonly mistaken for a crow, but different bird. Grackle are kind of trash birds. They're scavengers, and they're very common at the Florida resorts, and they're very aggressive in stealing snacks. So my son and I watched some grackle from the lazy river. We watched some grackle steal a bag of Lay's from one family and divide them up. We also saw another one who got a half of a Chick-fil-A sandwich bun. I mean, he got the jackpot, flew away with it in his mouth, and we saw him Joey Chestnut in the thing because he couldn't take it down. He was dipping it in the water so he could get the bun down. He went full Joey Chestnut on it.
Are you serious? That's great.
100%. 100%. I was like, look, that grackle's Joey Chestnut in that bun.
That's what we're going to do. We're going to enter this grackle. Go get that grackle. We're going to enter him against Joey Chestnut and see how it all works out. Good stuff, guys. A little different stuff for sure. And we'll bring Rich back next week. I'll be out next week, but we'll all get together, and I'm sure we'll throw a whole bunch of people under the bus. Thanks for joining us.
Under the Bus is a production of the Loco Media Network and is filmed on the Hilton Head Island campus of the University of South Carolina, Beaufort. The executive producer is Justin Jarrett, with assistance from Trey Ramsey, Mahogany Hickman, and Adam Carroll.